Why I abandoned the black culture. Now this is going to be an interesting video. More than likely, my take is going to piss everybody off, right? There are gonna be black people that don't like my take. There are gonna be white people that don't like my take. You know what I'm saying? I already see it coming, man, because I don't pander to nobody. You feel me? I just say it how I see it. Doesn't necessarily mean how I see it is always right, but I'm gonna say it how I see it.
What they call quote unquote black culture is nothing more than low vibrational programming. Simple as that. If you look at all of the elements of quote unquote black culture in America, it is all the lowest hanging fruit. It is the most degenerate, the most disgusting, the most perverted ideas that you could think of. And if you want an example, like just a very clear visual example, I wouldn't recommend doing it outside of strictly research purposes. Go and watch the BET Awards in the last 5 to 10 years. And I want you to see the progression of debauchery on the BET Awards. Now, if you don't know what BET stands for, good for you, because you probably haven't been exposed to this foolishness. But BET stands for Black Entertainment Television. It stopped being entertaining and it stopped being actually black a long time ago. Viacom bought the company, and that's a white-owned company. They bought it from, I believe, Bob Johnson is his name, multi-billionaire black man. He sold the company off to Viacom. Now, again, I don't give a damn about the race thing, but I'm making a point here to say that the black entertainment television has become a caricature. It's become, people like to call me an Uncle Tom or Coon or Sambo, not understanding that the true Uncle Tom or the true sellout, the true black sellout is the one who sells his community out, which means he is destroying his community. The only people doing that are the dope dealers, the jackers, the executioners, the 304s, the cheek clappers. You understand me? These individuals are the degenerates in our society, in our quote unquote communities. And when they push this culture, these are the people that they put at a pedestal. These are the people that they elevate. If you look at even politics, look at left-wing politics. Kamala Harris bought up.
All right, let me chime in. Boy, oh boy. Now I can sympathize with this man because he doesn't have the full picture. He doesn't have the big picture. And I used to be in a similar mind frame, as embarrassing as that is to admit now. I actually got red pilled to the reality of black culture and why it is the way that it is. This past year, 2024, around the time of the election cycle, and the way it happened was actually unintentionally. I got red pilled. It was by exploring the subject of reparations, which led me down a deep rabbit hole of studying black culture and black history in America, which led me to a point where I now appreciate all the reasons why the black community is where it is. Everything from the drug dealing to the crime rates to the glorification of certain kinds of entertainers. All of that is a result of white supremacy and slavery. Now, this is why I said some white people are going to hate this video, because they don't want to acknowledge that, right? You don't. It's like you have a dog, right? This is what America is. It's like you have a dog, you have a pit bull, you have a Rottweiler. And from the point where it's a small dog, you kick it and you punch it and you treat it badly. And then when it becomes an adult and it's a vicious dog that hates people and bites and barks and doesn't listen, you then say, man, there's just something wrong with Rottweilers. There's just something wrong with pit bulls. And that's what people are doing to the black community. This is the result. This is what happens when you kidnap a group of people. You force them into ignorance. You forbid them from receiving an education. You forbid them from, being able to perpetuate the culture that they had back in their homelands, that you snatch them from, that you kidnap them from. You bring them here. You break up their families. You forbid them from speaking their native tongue. You forbid them from learning proper English. You forbid them from learning how to read. You brainwash them for multiple generations. You take 1/3 of all families and you break them apart because you don't want them to have any sense of individuality. This is all historical fact. You sell them off to different plantations. You sell off children. You destroy the morale. You destroy these people emotionally, spiritually, and you do it for multiple generations. Then you call them niggers and you tell them that they are scum because you have to create this narrative because you're pious, Christian, religious, holy people. And so you need a way to validate or justify the fact that you are treating other human beings like scum. And so then the concept of white supremacy becomes invented, and you start telling yourselves and your children and your peers that actually the reason why these people are enslaved is because of the curse of Ham. And these people are actually inferior to us. And so that's why we're not being unchristian in treating these slaves, these people poorly and having them as slaves. And the Bible is pro-slavery anyway. That's a debate for another day. Just go and read 1 Timothy chapter 6, verses 1 through 2. The Bible is clearly pro-slavery. That's a New Testament verse. I don't even need to get into the Old Testament verse. And that's why there were so many books written by slave owners in the 1700s about the biblical case for slavery. It's only a modern theological invention to try and rework it to make slavery not something that's in the Bible or something the Bible doesn't endorse. Many church fathers talked about the importance of whipping your slaves, right? You had everyone from, you have Augustine, you have Jerome, you have Lactantius. Lactantius is a very early Christian father, by the way, just so you know. And so this is a very, so you invent all of these things. Sorry for going on the rant there. And you put this on these people. Then after hundreds of years of this, you finally say, okay, we're going to let you free, but we aren't going to equip you with anything. Now, Abraham Lincoln did try. He was trying to pass a reparations bill, the 40 acres and the mule. But of course, they assassinated Abraham Lincoln. And if you're wondering why, I'm sure that had a lot to do with it, that these blacks were going to actually get something so that they could kickstart their lives. And so they assassinated Abraham Lincoln, and the subsequent Democratic president that took over, he vetoed that bill because it did pass Congress and the Senate, the House and the Senate. And so anyway, so blacks didn't have anything, right? And they were essentially just sent off into the wilderness. And then you invent these laws called vagrancy laws that basically says that, and this is, of course, after the Civil War, it basically says, if you're unemployed, that's a imprisonable crime. And so, of course, these black people who were living in the South who had no employment, and also, the South has been decimated by the American Civil War. They didn't have employment. And so cops would arrest them. They would be charged a fine. They wouldn't be able to pay the fine. And then they would be in prison for years. And whilst in prison, they would then be sold off to private corporations to be used as slave labor. So even though slavery supposedly ended around 1865, it really continued all the way up until World War I was when we really see these kinds of laws being done away with. And then still equal rights was not provided until the 1960s, as many of you know. And so all the way up until that point in time, not allowed to go to schools, the best schools, not allowed to have certain kinds of careers, not allowed to build wealth. And the list goes on and on and on and on. It goes on and on. And so out of all of this, we get a group of people that have found various ways of trying to break free, right? One of the few ways in which black people were able to break out of that poverty was by becoming entertainers, right? And so this is why we see the glorification of entertainers in the black community. And it's always been the white people that determine which kinds of black entertainers become wealthy. They're the ones who own the theaters. They're the ones who own the recording companies, the record labels, and all of that. And so if it is that the more sensual kind of music, the more violent kind of music, the more extravagant kind of music and entertainers, if those are the people that get chosen to be the superstars that come out of the black community, then what kind of entertainers do you think the poor blacks who still want to escape that society are going to idolize? They're going to idolize those people and they're going to imitate those people. And I don't even think that's a nefarious, evil thing on the part of the white people. I think these people are just the most entertaining. I think this is the kind. It's for the same reason you love action movies. It's the same reason why The Equalizer is a great movie, where we have Denzel Washington running around blowing people's heads off, getting headshots, stabbing them in the neck. Why is that so captivating? The same reason gladiators were captivating in Olympia. Okay. This kind of stuff is just entertaining. The same reason why a voluptuous woman shaking her booty is entertaining, because you are a human being, right? You are a sensual, lustful creature. And of course, the goal, or one of the goals of the evolved, enlightened man, is to learn how to control these desires and impulses and not allow it to rule over you and make decisions for you. But this is just a part of our nature. And so, of course, these are also the kinds of entertainment that white people found the most entertaining. The shoot 'em up raps, the love songs, all of that, the sensual stuff. And it's the same, they made the same stuff too. That's your Presleys and your death metal music. They're talking about killing people and having wild sex with girls and all that as well. Everyone's doing it because we're all human and we all find that stuff entertaining. And so anyway, those are the people that get, a spotlight put on them. And so, of course, the same people who want to escape the hood, who want to escape this trap that they were set in, not of their own choice. They were constantly handicapped for hundreds of years. They're people. Statistically, if your parents go to university, it dramatically increases the chances that you will go to university. The education levels of your parents, that's one of the highest determining factors of what your education level will be. Now, of course, children can and often do surpass their parents in various things, including education. But when we're talking about what usually happens, usually the education level of the parents will determine the education level of the children. And there are many good reasons for that. And so when you literally prevent black people from learning how to read, how do you think that's going to have a ripple effect on subsequent generations? There's going to be a significant lag, right? If you're a white person and your ancestors go back to the Mayflower, if they go back to the 1700s, you have hundreds and hundreds of years of ancestors who lived in an environment where their only obstacle in life was how hard they wanted to work. If they wanted to get a PhD, if they wanted to start a business, if they wanted to do whatever, the only thing standing in their way was them. Well, it's only been 60 years that black people have been allowed to go to the best universities. And so so it is to be expected that, when it comes to things like education and all of that, we're going to be significantly lagging behind, as a group, at least. As a group, of course, you have black PhDs and black billionaires and black moguls and all of that, but as a group. And then when it comes to the crime thing, it's the same thing with that as well. With the crime thing, we have black people who couldn't sing. They can't sing, they can't dance, right? And they can't hoop. So what do? They want to get out the hood too. They also were not given the foundational elements of becoming an academic or a highly educated person because of the way they grew up, the environment they grew up in, and who were their parents. And so they turn to selling drugs as a way of getting out of the hood. And then we start seeing a relationship between, oh, I can't sing, but I'm real good at selling this crack. You can rap. Let me pay to put you in the booth. I'll pay for the music video. And so then we start seeing the synergy between drug dealers and rappers, this relationship that starts to get built. And so drug dealers are also starting to be idolized by the community. You got, they're buying turkeys for Thanksgiving for poor families. They're paying, you have a kid and that kid is good and he's going off to college. A drug dealer put a little money in your mom's pocket so you can get some money to buy books, and these kinds of things happen. And so, of course, the drug dealers get idolized as well. And then, unfortunately, when you are in an illicit business, when your business is illegal, there is no way to protect your business going through the normal channels. You can't go to the cops and report Joe down the street for raiding your drug house and stealing all your drugs. So you have to handle it yourself. And so, of course, that then brings in violence. And so now you have gang wars, okay? But it's not personal, right? It's this black on black narrative. Violence isn't happening because they're black. It's happening because, well, you're infringing on my business territory. I have to protect it. This is the only way I see myself getting out of the hood. This is what I was taught since I was a child. And unfortunately, there are casualties in war. And so it's a very messy thing. It becomes a very messy thing, and then it becomes a generational thing. And I'm not saying it's a good thing, but when you understand it, this is ultimately what I'm getting to. When you understand all the moving parts and how black people got in the place they got to, how can you speak? I can't bring myself to speak negatively of black culture. Yeah, the fatherless problem, that's terrible. Yeah, not every piece of art and entertainment is a motivational TED talk and uplifting and setting the best example, especially for impressionable children. Now, a lot of us are capable of consuming rap music, violent rap music, or watching a violent action movie or playing a violent video game, and then not we're able to compartmentalize. We're able to say, this is entertainment, this is art, this is not real life. And we know that there are some people where that's not their reality. Some people are heavily influenced by this stuff, and that's unfortunate, right? Well, let's not pretend like you're going to listen to an NLE Choppa song or an NBA Youngboy song and feel like, oh yeah, that's what I need to go and do what this guy, he's not even doing it. The guy said, the guy in the song isn't even doing it. He'd be in prison. Most people have enough common sense. So trying to blame the state of the black community on the music or the movies or the TV shows, it's just a red herring. The real problem is the lack of education. And people might say, oh, well, what's the point of improving the education system there if people don't want to go? People don't want to go because the education system is bad. You can't point to an example. Show me the poor community where the government invested millions of dollars in setting up high-level academic infrastructure with engaged teachers, state-of-the-art technology, the best books, who are using the most advanced forms of education where the goal is to engage the student and meet them where they're at. Show me the example of that being executed in America and that failing. You can't. Yeah, of course the kids they don't want to go to school. Their parents aren't educated and the schools are bad. So of course, why would they do that? Their parents can't help them to get through the algebra that they barely understood in class anyway, because the teacher isn't trying hard and isn't even a great teacher. So the problem is the education system. So when you blame rap music, it's a lot of dudes getting their PhDs and also listening to Kendrick Lamar. You know what I'm saying? There are a lot of dudes getting their PhDs. And, my dad, he has a PhD in accounting, and he loves dancehall music. He'll bump some Vibes Cartel and whatever he's bumping. And that stuff is the Jamaican equivalent to rap music. Doesn't stop you from getting a high education and taking care of your family. This is victim blaming right here, unfortunately. And there are a lot of ways that black people end up here, other than ignorance of history and therefore being incapable of empathizing and sympathizing with the black struggle in America. Conservative fundamentalist Christianity will lead you there as well. That will lead you to a hatred of black culture. That's why you see a lot of overlap between fundamentalist conservative Christians and this rhetoric, i.e. the Charlie Kirks of society, who completely ignore how black people ended up where they're at, and the real things, the real problems stopping the advancement of the black community. The big issue is education. If you read Why Nations Rise and Fall, or Why Nations Fail, they talk about the fact that one of the number one determining factors of whether or not a nation is on the rise or on the descent is the state of education in that country. Knowledge is power. If you know better, you do better. That's what it all comes down to. It comes down to what you know. Anyway, You know, how skilled you are, how skilled is your society, your population. This works on an individual level as well. But that's one thing, one way, and that makes sense because when you take a look at the roots, the foundation of Black people's relationship with Christianity in America, it was used to justify the enslavement of Black people, right? The Bible was, and so it shouldn't come as a surprise that that relationship still exists. Furthermore, another reason why there's that relationship between conservative fundamentalist Christianity and this, how you end up speaking like this, is because it's a purity religion, meaning you're the problem, right? That's the heart message of Christianity. The problems you have in your life are all your fault because you're wicked and evil, right? It's your fault. And I'm not going to get into the problems with that in this video, but then that gets projected upon the Black community. The reason why you're having these problems is because of your sins, your fault. You can't put the blame on Adam and Eve. You can't put the blame on God. It's your fault in fundamentalist conservative Christianity. And so that same logic is projected on the Black community. And therefore, what you need to do is repent of your sins. Turn from your heathenistic ways, because your sins are what are causing your people to fail. And so that's what it is as well. And so that's how you end up with a lot of Black people talking like this. A mixture of ignorance and that. And so when I got red pilled to the reality of history and all that, I realized this is all nonsense. You know what I'm saying? Like, even the word nigga. Why is the word nigga considered explicit? Who made it explicit? Black people didn't come up with the word nigga, right? White people came up with the word nigger, and that wasn't an explicit word. You could say it in church, you could say it in the courthouse, you could say it in school, you could say it whenever, because America was a white supremacist nation, right? Out in its foundation. And then once it became conscious of its racism during the civil rights movement, once it acknowledged that racism is bad and morally wrong and wicked, you could no longer say that word, right? But by then, Black people had taken that word and turned it into a word of endearment that they could say to one another. And so, of course, when a Black person called another Black person a nigga, he was never saying it in a disparaging way. You know, it was almost like, you're a nigga, I'm a nigga in this world, in this white supremacist world. We're both niggas, huh? And so that became a term of endearment, but in theme, in step with the history of white supremacist America, once the white man can't have it anymore, you can't have it neither. And so something that really should only belong to you because of the suffering that you went through together, how this word even came about, now they want to say you can't say it. And so everything about you is bad and wicked and evil, even this word that you use as a term of endearment to one another, which is why I've started saying the word again. I was like, who made this word a cuss word? Now, I don't care about cuss words anymore, if you haven't noticed. I'll say whatever the fuck I want to say. But, nigga in particular still shouldn't be seen as a bad word amongst Black people, right? That is evidence. It's a relic of your history. And don't allow white America to demonize. It's not your fault. You didn't choose the word nigger. It's like they're embarrassed. This is their doing. That word exists because of the history of their racism and wickedness. So don't then allow them to turn around and guilt you for using the word that they invented to disparage you and are butthurt because they can't use the word anymore. They're not supposed to use the word or whatever it is. So yeah, man. Oh man, I really didn't even get much further into this video. It's just I already know where all this is going, man. I really didn't plan to just go on this yapathon, this yap marathon right now. And I suppose we can just let the video play to say I watched it. We watched it together, and maybe we'll give a few final words at the end. But something tells me every point he's about to make, I've already addressed it.
Meg Thee Stallion, Cardi B, Beyonce, right? Some people say, well, Beyonce is a little classier. I'm sorry. Since Beyonce stretched over 40, for some reason, she has lost more clothes. It's like the older she got, the less that she dresses. I don't know what it is about that. Am I alone in that? Am I the only one who thought to myself, man, when she was like in her 20s, she was doing Destiny's Child. Yeah, maybe she was a little more shy or whatever. But I'm like, there was wholesomeness there. There was a decency. And then all of a sudden, we got almost booty butt naked Beyonce. What's going on? You're a mother of two now. What's going on? Maybe three. I don't even know. I don't keep up with it like that. But what I do know is that we're selling the degeneracy, we're selling the debauchery. Worse enough, Meg was up there actually twerking it. She was throwing it back on stage. We had Glorilla, little Gorilla. Look, she seems real kind, like a good-hearted individual. But come on, come on. The lowest vibrational, the most degenerate, the most vile. Then you go over to our men, and what are we doing over here? Bang, bang, shoot him up, huh? Gang, gang, gang. Smoking on Tuka. That's what we're doing?
Nigga, who the fuck are you talking about? Like, you're talking about what? 5% of our population? What do you mean our men? Our men don't do that. You see, even when I was on like the conservative black guy mindset before I got fully red pill, I still made the distinction that, look, this is the propaganda. This is how they portray black people, but this isn't our people. This isn't this isn't the reality. He's not even making that distinction. And maybe it's because he's a rookie, right? When you just become a YouTuber and you start making your videos, you have to learn over time. You got to be real precise with your language because it's very easy to misinterpret what you're saying. So let's give him the benefit of the doubt and assume maybe that's what he was trying to. He's talking about how the media portrays us and not necessarily how it all is, but he's being real sloppy with his language right here. All right, we'll continue.
That's what we're doing. Taking each other out. Eliminating the person who looks like your own cousin, your own brother. That's what we have been sold as our culture. Are you serious?
Like, who is he talking to right there? Yeah, I don't think he's being sloppy, bro. I think he's essentially talking like a conservative white man that's completely ignorant of the fact that, no, the majority of black men do live with their children. No, the majority of black men are not criminals. You know, the majority of black people aren't on welfare. Man.
Up on the quote unquote black community. I already had my black card revoked. You understand me? And like, it was already being pulled. My black card, you know, they pull your card, right? They pull your coat. They were pulling my card at first, and it got yanked away on November 5th when I made a decision that was contrary to what I was supposed to do. I got off the Democratic plantation and I made a decision for myself, like millions of other free-thinking individuals. And I got my black card revoked, completely removed. And you know what? I, for the first time, felt absolutely free because I was no longer obligated to anybody or anything besides the truth. I am beholden to the truth and nothing else.
Now, that's the one thing I will agree with, and I still believe that the whole allegiance, the black community's allegiance to the Democrat Party is a misplaced loyalty. Kamala Harris had nothing to offer the black community that was designed to uplift the black community. She even said herself with her own mouth that she has no intention of serving the black community, right? And at the end of the day, money makes the world go around. And so I think it was in every black person's interest to vote for the person that is going to best help the economy. And with the information we had to work with, in my opinion, that was Trump. And so that's why I supported Trump, a part of the reason I supported Trump. And I think a lot of black people voted for Trump because at the end of the day, what matters is the price of milk and bread and how much you're getting at the end of your work week on your paycheck and how much of that is being left in your pocket after taxes. And so all the signs pointed to Trump being the better person in all those regards. And so it is unfortunate that when a black person was able to see and acknowledge that and wanted to vote accordingly, where that is concerned, they were seen as self-hating Uncle Toms that betrayed their race or something. What that really spoke to more than anything was the blind faith and allegiance of the black community in the Democrat Party that's been selling them down the river for forever, right? You know, the list goes on and on of the horrible things that the Democrat Party has done to black people since its inception. That's unfortunate, but hey, we continue. We press forward.
And that there is the greatest freedom that anybody could ever ask for, is when you know that you can say what needs to be said, and no matter who feels a type of way about it, you will still say it. I feel bad for those who still feel like they have to hide their opinions and duck off into a corner. I really do. I feel empathy for you and I understand where you're coming from. And I will continue to be a voice for those who are afraid to speak out. But I will also continue to encourage you to say we all need to speak out, because so long as we don't, we allow this foolishness, this madness to represent us and to continue to perpetuate. Our kids are going to continue to consume the sexy reds, no Diddy, until we stop worshiping first and foremost, but we also have to speak out. And thank you to the brothers and sisters out there who are speaking out against this stuff. I really appreciate y'all because I know you're out there. But we need to speak with megaphones. They have been yelling and screeching these messages. They've been putting billions of dollars, advertising dollars, into getting this messaging across to us. And so we have to counter it with telling the truth. We have to, because this ain't for us. When they talk about they not like us, that goes so many different ways. We want to take black because they're not like us. They're not black like us. Skin folk don't make you kinfolk. If you don't have the same value system as I have, you're not my people. If you believe in the mutilation of children, you believe in deleting your children at mass, you're not my people. You're not my people. I'm telling you that straight up right now. You're not my people. You might look just like me, but if you don't believe in, family values, you don't believe in not slanging your thing all over the streets, you don't believe in keeping them legs closed, you're not my people. You're somebody who is living in an alternative lifestyle, and I'm not going to stop you from doing it, but I'm going to speak truth to power. I'm not going to stop you from cutting off your joint, but I'm going to stop you from doing it to my kids and everybody else's kids. It's gotten out of control. Our people they stand for nothing, so they fall for anything. They stand for nothing, so they fall for anything. They have no foundation. They do not have a grassroots, grounded approach to life. They are so disconnected from real life that they believe that what they're being sold is real, and so they perpetuate it. I've heard of teachers talking about they having little kids coming in class twerking into God knows whatever is out nowadays. Little boys bang bang shoot them up. You 10, 9 years old? What are you talking about? What are you talking?
Now, again, the things he's talking about, a lot of the things he's mentioning, right? These are real issues for certain members of the black community. It's not something that affects the majority of the black community. One. Two, the problem is education. You're mistaking the effect for the cause. You're not getting to the root of the problem. The root of the problem is poor education. The reason why you're able to see all of these things and realize that they aren't good or profitable is because you have critical thinking skills that were afforded to you because of the education you received as a child and whatever education you received thereafter. And so it's that simple, man. It really is that simple. The only reason you're able to speak like this is because of all of the work that the black people who came before us put in to move the racial situation in America forward, right? The only reason you're able to talk like this and you have these luxuries and you can make money and all that. I mean, look, he has a Thomas Sowell book in the back, and I've read pretty much every popular Thomas Sowell book there is. You know what I'm saying? And so I know exactly where he's coming from. I know what kind of wave and what kind of mindset he's on. But again, you are not getting to the root of the problem. The root of the problem is not Sexy Red. The root of the problem is not listen, I have no fear in my heart that if my son grows up and he's 17, 18 years old and he listens to rap music or whatever, that's going to lead him astray. Why? Because I put in the work in giving him critical thinking skills and giving him a broad worldview by educating him from a young age about the world that he lives in and the world around him. And I'm only able to do that because that was afforded to me as a child. And a lot of that is because I grew up in Jamaica. I'm an immigrant. You feel me? And I come from a completely different culture and a different background, and different opportunities were afforded for me, that aren't necessarily being afforded for a kid that is growing up in abject poverty in a ghetto in Chicago. You know what I'm saying? And so that's the real issue here. That's the real issue. And it's easy to get drawn in by these arguments that he's making, where he's pointing at your Sexy Reds and your NBA young boys and imagery of children twerking and all that. And how many, he brings up the chopping off, the getting transgender surgeries or whatever. How is that a black issue? What percentage of black men are getting their Johnsons chopped off? What percentage of black women are undergoing sex changes? See, these aren't real issues, but they are very emotionally provocative and they're strong visuals. And so he lists them off in quick succession and it makes it hard. Yeah, it's like, yeah, I guess I agree with the idea that it's not good for little boys to chop off their Johnsons. Well, how many black boys are is that their reality? So what is he even getting at here? And yeah, the idea of little black girls twerking in class, that sounds terrible. How many little black girls have you seen twerk in class? I haven't seen any. And I'm sure if I look for it online, I could maybe find 5 before the FBI breaks down my door and searches my computer for, is like, what is this weirdness you're looking at here, sir? But you get what I'm saying. It's like, where is this coming from? This is just as much propaganda as the, the celebration of the, violence or the sexual debauchery in black entertainment. Well, this is also a form of propaganda as well. All of it at the end of the day to get away from the real issue, which is education that needs to be afforded to the people.
You barely got off of the Similac. You barely got off of breast milk, and you talking about what? And we've allowed this to perpetuate. We've accepted this as our culture. I gave up on the culture a while ago. I gave up on this culture because there is no community besides the ones who have the same value system, and color never had nothing to do with it, or sexual orientation, gender never had anything to do with it. It never had. It was always about right or wrong. It's always about dark versus light, good versus evil. It's always been that.
No, it hasn't always been that. There was a point in time where to survive in this country as a black man, you needed to rely on other black people. That's not the case anymore. We can all acknowledge that. But yeah. I mean, look, man, it's a complex issue. Anyone trying to oversimplify this thing is going to not do it justice. It's a very complex issue. There are multiple faces and facets. But at the end of the day, to solve the problem in the black community, first and foremost, is we need a complete overhaul of the education system. I promise you, all children love to learn. It doesn't matter their race or whatever. It's just that you have to make learning engaging and fun and interesting. What kid doesn't want to grow, a tomato plant? What 4-year-old kid, what 6-year-old kid won't find it interesting to get some fresh soil and get the seed, and you put the seed in the soil, and every day he gets to come and see it grow, and he sees it sprouting roots, and then you take him to the chalkboard and you say, okay, so this is the radical part of the roots, and this is what's happening, and these are the different phases it's going through, and you teach him about agriculture, and you teach him how plants grow, and animals, and you got to make it interesting. You got to make it fun. All kids love to learn. And so when school is dry and it's just like a trial run for prison, the walls need new paint, the ceiling falling down, the books are old and tattered, the whiteboard is dingy, you know what I'm saying? You walk into a nice, crisp, fresh, white suburban school and they have up all these nice, shiny posters with diagrams, and they have all these little experiments and projects they work on in class. They have a nice indoor basketball court where they do PE class and all. That's what makes school fun and entertaining, man. Yeah, man. Anyway. All right. You probably can figure out how the rest of this video is going to go. I'll link to the full thing if you want to hear more of this, but it's just more of the same. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below, guys. All right, man. Peace out.